And welcome back to Superboy Beyond, and this is our second Beyond commentary in a row. We just watched The Adventures of Superman episode 1 with George Reeves, and now we're going to watch episode 7 of the Superman Ruby Spears show. But I guess you already know that because you clicked this video. If this is your first time watching one of our commentaries, you're not going to see any clips from the episode. You're not going to hear any audio from it. You are going to see a very heavily filtered version of it up there, but that's purely so you can keep in time with us in case you need to pause it for whatever reason.
Yep.
So get your DVDs ready. This is Ruby Spears Superman episode 7 in 3, 2, 1, play. Here's that gorgeously animated intro.
Yeah, that's one thing that Ruby Spears was known for doing is gorgeous, animation. I mean, sometimes the series themselves that they did weren't great, but the intro animations were amazing.
Yeah, the only thing I wish is that there's so much extra shading for the intro. I just wish they had the budget to do that in the actual show.
Yep.
But I mean, there's moments in this intro where I would easily put it right up there alongside the Batman animated series, the Bruce Timm one. I think the quality of the animation is just as good at times.
Yeah.
Not always, but
especially when they invert the colors on the symbol.
Yeah, that happened even in the comics, though. I'm sure I've got a few old issues with the comics where the colorist made the mistake and reversed the colors by accident.
All right, so this episode is called The Hunter. It's also followed by the Superman Family album episode.
Little Runaway, it's called.
Little Runaway, yeah. So Jonathan and Martha are actually visiting Clark in Metropolis.
Which I like,
As usual, Clark has to run off and do his other job.
Mm.
And I know I've said this before when we've watched Ruby Spears. Bo Weaver is so great as Superman.
Yeah, he does a very good job.
And as you'll notice, we just saw our first glimpse into the Phantom Zone.
Right. So is that supposed to be Zod?
Yes, it's very... The design on Zod here is very Silver Age.
He just looks like a cop.
Well, that's what his uniform looked like, even though in the comics, Silver Age, it wasn't sort of a brownish gray, it was purple.
I think if it was purple here, it would look slightly better. Because at the moment, it just looks like, a cop.
But he is voiced by the great Rene Auberjonois.
Odo.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I can hear it. That is interesting. Rene Auberjonois actually played Zod at one point.
Yep. And this is the second time he's been involved in a DC project. The previous one was when he played the Zod on Super Friends.
Oh, so he's played Zod twice?
No, the Zod.
Oh, just Zod. Sorry.
Yeah.
Darkseid's crony. Yeah.
Yep. And they're creating this creature called a Hunter from a chemical pool in the Phantom Zone. The voice of the Hunter is provided by Peter Cullen, who most sci-fi fans will know as the voice of Optimus Prime.
It is funny when they've got the strong light sources. I did notice they did bring in the extra shading that they had in the intro sequence. So I guess they just saved it for when it was most appropriate, which I think is very smart. They knew they didn't have the greatest budget on this show, so they were very careful.
Essentially, what the Hunter's abilities are is he's essentially like the absorbing man from Marvel Comics. He can touch a substance and then become it.
You know, the Ang Lee Hulk movie isn't the best, but I always quite liked the ending when Banner's father, David Banner, would like turn into the absorbing man. I thought that was an interesting sequence. It was well visualized as well. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's not bad either. It's actually pretty underrated, I think.
And I have to give credit to Ruby Spears here for going the extra mile with the transformations.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, just looks fantastic. Okay, they probably could have put a little bit more detail in if they had a higher budget, but they've clearly used their budget in a really smart way.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the design on him as he's a steel, essentially robot.
They've got all that extra shading on to make him look shiny. Like, yeah, it's great. I like that this episode is literally just every time he tries to do anything with Jonathan and Martha, he gets called away to something else. The lip syncing was a bit strange just then. I wonder if that line was different originally. Maybe originally it was like, "Get out of here" or something like that. I tell you what, I would not have been able to tell that this is the voice of Optimus Prime. They've processed it so much. It almost makes me wonder if they, needn't have bothered. They could have just got anyone to do the voice if you're going to process it that badly. Because it's unrecognizable. I do love the music they have in this show as well. I don't suppose you know whether the actual score for this series has ever had a release. I'm guessing not.
I think the closest we ever got to a release on it was in that DC 75th anniversary CD.
And that was just the theme tune, wasn't it?
Yeah.
See, I want this music, the music that's playing right now during all of this. Like, it's good music. I'd like to hear it again without all the sound effects over it.
And how often does this happen in the comics?
It seems to happen every time they adapt it lately.
Yeah.
The Daily Planet symbol, like there was that great moment in Superman Returns with that, and aren't there set photos of Superman doing exactly this for James Gunn's movie as well? I mean, not smashing through the floor, obviously, but catching the globe. Could be wrong.
Not sure if I've seen anything like that, but that doesn't mean anything.
I just vaguely remember seeing shots of him holding up something that was just like a basic wireframe that I assume they're just going to replace with something in CG. Although actually it might have been Mr. Terrific's sphere ship thing that he's got. Might have been that. Who knows? I tell you what, he looks good now he's Diamond. I like all the sort of the sparkly sort of twinkle effects they've got over him. It's a nice touch. It's like a Diamond version. I tell you what, it would be a pretty cool power, actually, being the absorbing man.
Yeah.
I'd probably just choose Diamond immediately and just stay bulletproof for the rest of my life.
And now he's become mud.
Mm. Which is interesting because this could almost, if they managed to freeze him in this form, it'd be like an interesting sort of Elseworlds origin for something like Clayface.
Yeah.
Like, there's been so many Clayfaces over the years, let's face it. You probably don't even need it to be an Elseworlds at this point.
Yep. So the Phantom Zoners have told him to go get kryptonite, and there's only one place you can really get kryptonite.
Yeah, you've got to go to Luthor. I love that he's only just woken up as well. He got lifted out and shaken a few times before he even woke. That Luthor is a deep sleeper. I do like the version of Luthor in this.
Yeah, Michael Bell plays him so smarmy and so comedic. But there's also an air of menace to him when needed.
Honestly, now that Lex knows that that's the creature's goal, he'd probably let him take the chunk of kryptonite for free. He's like, right, it saves me a job. Or at least this version of Luthor probably would. Other versions would probably be, no, I'm the one that gets to kill Superman.
Yeah, but there is a moment in a little bit where that comes into play.
Oh, that's cool. How did the creature know Superman was? Oh, I suppose because they're watching from the Phantom Zone. Of course, they know.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the Hunter can also shapeshift because I've been thinking this whole episode like he looks vaguely Green Martian.
Yeah. I think that his whole being able to touch something and take its form. I think he touched
Obviously
Martha.
works on humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though why he didn't do it on Superman, I'll never know.
That's true. Yeah, he could have just become Superman, stole his powers. I do think it's funny how the Phantom Zone criminals are basically still stuck in the Phantom Zone, just probably watching this entire thing, just invisible to everyone in the real world. Hmm. I still don't remember her name, but it's interesting
Jessica
that she's
Morganberry.
sad. Miss Morganberry, yeah. It's interesting how she's actually upset about the death of Superman, which is kind of a Teschmacher type thing. Let's face it, Teschmacher wasn't necessarily the worst person. She just made very bad choices. So maybe this one is similar, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting to note that the Phantom Zone trio here is it's slightly inverted version of the one from the Superman movie.
Mm.
In the Superman movie, it's 2 males and 1 female. Here, it's 2 females and 1 male.
Hmm. I've never seen a remote control that looks anything like that thing. Like, Jimmy must have a really fucked up television.
Well, you got to think about it like this,
I suppose it's the handheld device with buttons on it.
Yeah.
No cell phones back. Well, I suppose there were cell phones back then, but they were like the size of a brick.
Yes.
It's interesting that his skin is full on green in this scene as well. Obviously, it's this show and Superboy are maybe the only two versions of the character that's done that. Oh, but... That's nice. Always like when the Superman and Lois relationship is just sweet like that,
Mm.
Oh dear.
Well, we knew that this was the ultimate plan.
Mm.
Get Superman
Part
out
of
of
me
the way.
almost thinks this is... Yeah, it's almost a shame this isn't a two-parter, so the part 2 can just be a full-on Zod fight. Oh well.
If it had been extended out to a full half an hour instead of having the Superman Family album stuff, then yeah,
that could have been the ending. Yeah, I wouldn't get rid of the Family album stuff. I know they're not for everybody, but I love those segments.
Yeah.
Purely because I love those segments in the comics as well.
That shot of the Phantom Zone projector being hit out the hole, a little wonky looking.
Little bit, yeah.
And I love the fact that he's making sort of little Spider-Man-esque quips, like when he's looking at the projector, and he says, just a few loose wires, kind of like Zod.
Yeah, I always like when Superman has a sense of humor. I know a while back when we did our review on one of the Superboy tie-in comics, there was that really fun moment where I think it was a car was driving at him or something, and all he did was just fly up, and the car immediately crashed.
Yeah,
something like that. But he said something funny in that moment there as well.
And you should love this moment because it's very reminiscent of that scene in the Hulk.
I mean, I'm not being funny, Zod, but you have all the same powers he does, as Superman does. Why don't you get up off your ass and help?
Well, remember, he's a general. Generals don't have to do that kind of stuff.
I guess, but I mean, his two cronies didn't manage to get through. I've got to say, I don't like Zod's costume. Maybe if it was purple like the comics, it would look better, but I don't like it in this. He just looks like a bloody game warden or something, He's coming to, arrest Superman for fishing out of season or something.
Yeah, I think if they'd actually put it in this sort of light purple that it was in the comics, it just wouldn't have looked right here.
Maybe they needed a different costume then. Give him something inspired by the Donner movies or something, He literally just looks like a human sort of game warden. I don't like it.
Well, the other thing is that Zod in the comics, pre-1985, was bald. So adding hair in didn't really help.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if a few small changes could have made that scene better. Oh, and now we're back to the Kent family album. Whereas I like to think of them the Super Baby and Superboy segments.
Without actually having the costume.
Yeah. They're also very clearly, these segments are written for comedy as well. I quite like how comedic they get sometimes. Like the circus scene in the last episode when he was on the tightrope and stuff, still carrying the drinks. Like, I like that stuff. I think it's fun.
And of course, Jonathan admonishing him here for carrying the cow around, saying she's not going to produce any milk if you fly her around like that. So because he can't watch his movie,
he's running away from home.
Yeah. Kind of a little spoiled bratish.
Oh, I'm sorry. That pipe was plenty big enough. I mean, I'm just going to make a prediction now, having never seen this before. I think by the end, that dog is going to come back with him to the farm, and he'll just be like Crypto or whatever.
Nope.
Okay, fair enough.
But we have this hobo being voiced by Michael Bell. I'll be honest, this isn't my favorite of the Kent family album episodes so far. It's very preachy, this one.
A little bit.
I mean, yeah, there are some moments of comedy, but it's
not funny enough. There were some humorous moments, but yeah. Yeah, that was maybe my least favorite of the Kent family album episodes, but it wasn't terrible,
very.
I think the rest of the episode was just so much better that it kind of
Yeah, that's the whole thing about these episodes. You can have a really great lead-in episode, and then you can have a Superman family album episode that might be a little lacking.
I did just notice that the music is done by Ron Jones. Am I right in thinking he also worked on a lot of Star Trek?
Could be.
I'm sure I know the name Ron Jones. So now that this episode's over, I'm going to quickly pull up his IMDb. Because I'm sure that Ron Jones did some Star Trek stuff. I could be wrong. Series music by Ron Jones. Oh, it was the right Ron Jones. So he's done some music on Star Wars, Fairly Odd Parents, Star Trek Logs, whatever that is. Flintstones 25th Anniversary Collection. Some Family Guy. Oh, Star Trek Starfleet Academy he did the music for, the video game.
Okay.
From 1997. I've never played that. He was the composer on 42 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. So that is where I know his name from. He started in season 1 and made music all the way up to season 4. That explains why the music was so good. So, yeah. This is going to be a difficult episode to score because the first half is so much better than the second. I almost want to say let's just sort of disregard the family album and let's just score it on the Hunter,
the main feature.
Yeah, because I mean that was 3/4 of the running time anyway. So
yeah,
the Hunter I would give maybe a 7.5. I think there's things I would have done differently, things that design wise I didn't like. I don't like Zod's costume. I just think he looks rubbish, you know.
I think it would have looked a lot better if it was closer to the actual Silver Age suit, you know, color wise.
And just make it look more alien. It looks exactly like a human piece, like a human outfit, you know, something from Earth. Like it should look like it's from Krypton. At the very least, give him a cape, you know. It could have been the exact same costume, but put a cape on him too. It would have just been
the two ladies that they had there, you know, the two Kryptonian Phantom Zoners. Their costumes looked very alien.
Yeah. His didn't. He almost looked like he was a random human that had just been stuck in the Phantom Zone somehow. You know?
So if they put a little bit more effort into making the costume look like it did in the comics, you know, pre-1985, you know, with the subdued light purple, made him bald the way he's supposed to be. It almost feels like they were trying to do a combination between Silver Age Zod and Terrence Stamp, because remember, Terrence Stamp had hair.
Yeah, although he, you know, it was thin, but it was there, I suppose. It's almost a shame they didn't give him the Terrence Stamp like mini sort of goatee looking thing that Terrence Stamp had. That might have been interesting. Even just make him bald, get rid of the hat, make the costume slightly more purplish. Even if you have to add extra details or whatever, you know. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that really lets it down with this episode is maybe that design. But 7.5 is not a terrible score.
Yeah, it's
still very respectable.
And you know, Rene Auberjonois as Zod. I mean, he even for the little bits that he's there, you know, you can hear the rage and the anger in his voice and the frustration of having been stuck in the Phantom Zone. And the design on the Phantom Zone is very interesting. It's not like classic Silver Age Phantom Zone. It's more like the Phantom Zone that we saw in Supergirl, the movie.
Yeah, very similar.
So
especially with the sort of pit of unidentifiable liquid. Like there was some weird sort of there's that bit when she's with Peter O'Toole and they're trying to escape the Phantom Zone and they're climbing through like that cave thing.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me a little bit of that sequence. I think it's very good. Part of me almost wishes though that with the Phantom Zone in this that they had just gone that version from the comics where it's literally they are just in. It looks like our world except nobody can see them.
Yeah,
it's just like they're witnessing everything.
The swirling purple behind them, and they're just, you know, white phantoms.
Yeah, like that might have been interesting. But it doesn't ruin the episodes. I think, like I say, 7.5 is not a terrible score. And the music was great, you know. Ron Jones did an absolutely fantastic job. So I think that's definitely worth applauding. You know, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that are big fans of him from Next Generation. Yeah, plus a few video games that he did as well, like Starfleet Academy, which I've never actually played, but it's sort of infamous. It's one of those classic Star Trek games that some people love, some people hated.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember, isn't that the one where Sulu is actually George Takei, like comes back and plays Sulu, and it's like new footage that they recorded for it? It's one of those games with.
It could be. That's one of those games that I never played. I think it was a computer game. So
yeah, it was a PC game, 1997. But maybe there's some Star Trek fans watching that actually played that game. I always heard it was rubbish though, so I never did. But then you hear that with most Star Trek games. I think the only Star Trek game I would class as being legitimately good is maybe Star Trek Online. You know, I know you agree with that one, but yeah. Although actually, I did hear that the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie like tie-in game wasn't bad. Apparently, it was okay. You know, it wasn't as terrible as it should have been. They put in actual effort with that one.
Yeah, and there is a tie-in between that game and the second movie, Into Darkness, when McCoy makes the comment about have you ever been midwife to a pregnant Gorn trying to give birth to babies? Those things bite. We actually see that in the game.
That is cool. At some point, I'm going to have to play that game. You know, I was waiting for it to go down in price, and then my PlayStation broke.
Yeah.
So one day I'll play it. You know, maybe at some point I'll have a computer that can emulate it or something. You know, or maybe it's on Steam. I don't know. Maybe it is. Either way, 7.5. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Not sure what we're going to watch yet. We'll decide on the day. Goodbye.
Viacom.